So wait a minute. Can you tell me again what I'm trying to prove, according to you?
Why would I have to tell you that if it's your argument?
I don't think that you substantiated that Hillary Clinton's team colluded with Igor Danchenko, or that at the time he was a suspected Russian spy. I think that alone is still shaky.
We already dealt.
It remains shaky after all this. Yeah,
we already dealt with the suspected Russian spy aspect. Now we're talking about whether or not they colluded. I say colluding with an intermediary is still collusion. You're like, but I don't think it was collusion because for it to be collusion, it has to be secret. But it would only be secret if illegal. It was illegal. Okay, so then what's it matter if it was illegal or not, if it was secret?
I think that, well, I think that okay, if we're relating it back to the Trump stuff, it was illegal. Like the Trump's collusion.
It wasn't. You haven't shown any evidence of that. You keep making.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. All the Mueller investigation stuff, all the indictments, all the charges, that stuff. There were charges, there were indictments that actually had guilty pleas, right?
Show me those. Show me those that had anything to do. Okay, I can say this. There was a fine paid by Hillary Clinton, right? Surrounding.
Yes, for checking the wrong box.
No. Don't tell me what it was for. Yes or no? Okay. Was there a fine paid regarding the working with a Russian to get information against Trump? Yes or no? Was there a fine?
There was a fine for reporting that incorrectly. Yes.
Okay, it doesn't matter. So you said yes. So
it does not, because it was still reported. It was still reported.
It does not matter. And I'll tell you what. Hey, audience, did you?
That means that even proves it's not secret because it was reported.
No. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? All we know is there was crimes that were processed that Hillary's team was guilty of surrounding colluding with Russians.
Crimes that she was guilty of. They settled it. They settled that case. So that doesn't mean guilt, right? Settling a case doesn't mean you're guilty, right?
She paid a fine.
They settled. They settled. They paid a fine.
She paid a fine. If I find out that
she agreed to pay $113,000 to settle a federal. Here, I've got a. But you agree that just settling isn't the same as being guilty, right?
Sure, I guess. But it's
otherwise, I mean, Trump settles quite a lot of things that I would also say he's not guilty of, right?
But settling with a third party is different than settling with the authorities, right? Nonetheless, the reason I bring up this absurd fucking argument is you the other day, like one of the first interactions I had with you recently in Sarah Tomatoes, you made this bold claim. Unlike you, Rob, I don't just say shit without fucking knowing. I don't do that.
Whoa.
That's what you said.
Whoa.
Yes.
What I said is I like to know. I want to know. I desire to know. I want to know better. Okay, and I think I still think that your framing of this is. I still stand by that your framing of this is disinformation.
You can say that. You keep going back to these 2 points
because these are the things I came here to talk about.
As we keep shattering them over, we're like, okay, well then if A, then B. You're like, yeah, and if B, then C, yeah, and then I'm like, okay, but that's not true, and you're like, but I still want to go back to A. I just want to go back to A. That's what you've done constantly. So again, I'll ask you. I'll ask you. You're definitively saying that Trump did illegal things in an effort to, in colluding with Russia. Show me one.
Trump's team at least did. Yeah.
Yeah. Show me one.
Okay. Let's see. What were the Trump
to collude with Russia in the 2016 election to get disinformation on Hillary?
Wait. You're adding that to get disinformation or to get information. Collusion broadly. Wouldn't collusion broadly, even if it's for other purposes, wouldn't that be relevant? If it's for other purposes regarding the election that aren't specifically about Hillary Clinton.
Okay, regarding the election, right? Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Here's key findings of the Mueller report.
Now, what we're looking, just before you read, this is going to be information that Trump's team members were guilty of colluding with Russia to influence the 2016 election. Correct? Yes or no? Yes?
Say it again. Yeah.
You're going to show us evidence that Trump's team, people on Trump's team, were charged with crimes, found guilty of crimes for colluding with Russia to get information to affect the 2016 election. Not necessarily against Hillary, but information in general to affect the election.
Colluding about information regarding the election? I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Show me the crimes. Let's see it.
Let's see. The special counsel investigation uncovered extensive criminal activity. The investigation produced 37 indictments, 7 guilty pleas or convictions, and compelling evidence that the president obstructed justice on multiple occasions. Mueller also uncovered and referred 14 criminal matters to other components of the Department of Justice. Trump's associates repeatedly lied to investigators about their contacts with Russians, and President Trump refused to answer questions about his efforts to impede federal proceedings and to influence the testimony of witnesses. A statement signed by over 1,000 former federal prosecutors concluded that if any other American engaged in the same efforts to impede federal proceedings the way Trump did, they would likely be indicted for multiple charges of obstruction of justice. And this is all regarding
okay, I didn't. Did any of that strike you as Trump's team colluding with Russians in an illegal way to affect the 2016. Which one of those was that?
I think it
obstructing justice isn't that. Lying's not that. So what was it?
Well, lying about what? That would matter, right?
It doesn't matter. No. Why does that matter? Wait.
If they're lying about things regarding the election, information about the election, yeah.
That's not true. You said if he did illegal things. Hillary's team then lied about their FEC filing. Right?
They checked the wrong box, yeah, for sure.
There was no crime that I'm aware of, and I'm 99% sure that anyone on Trump's team was alleged to have colluded with Russians to influence the 2016 election. No crime.
This is the link I just put back. I'm reading further down on it. It says the investigation, quote unquote, identified numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign and established the Trump campaign, quote unquote, showed interest in WikiLeaks releases of documents and welcomed their potential to damage candidate Clinton. Michael Cohen pursued a hotel residence project in Moscow on behalf of Trump while he was campaigning, and Trump personally signed a letter of intent. Senior members of the Trump campaign, including Manafort, Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, took this is the June 9th, 2016 meeting. I'm sure you know about this with the Russians at Trump Tower. Okay. Russians had after they were informed that Russians had derogatory information that Clinton was part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. Right. Okay.
Real quick pause. Any of that so far that you've read, any of that's being charged with a crime to get to information to affect the 2000? Anything so far that you just read there about being charged with a crime to affect the 2016 election? Working with.
So Russians. Would you agree that all of that is regarding the 2016 election, regarding getting information about the 2016? You agree with that, right?
It's not a crime.
Well, some of Paul Manafort's contacts were, but
okay. What was Paul Manafort's contact regarding to affect the 2016 election that he was charged with?
Okay, here's the part that again it kind of comes back to my core here. So it's the report contains no evidence that any Trump campaign official reported their contacts with Russia or WikiLeaks to U.S. law enforcement authorities during the campaign or presidential transition, despite public reports on Russia hacking starting in June 2016 in candidate Trump's August 2016 intelligence briefing, warning him that Russia was seeking to interfere in the election. So again, it comes back to them not going through the legal channels, right? So if you're saying there's no crimes related to that, if you're saying there's no crimes that were related to that, then we can dig into that and find out. But just to be clear,
read that sentence again. Read that sentence again.
The report contains no evidence that any Trump campaign official reported their contacts with Russia or WikiLeaks to U.S. law enforcement authorities during the campaign or presidential transition, despite public reports on Russian hacking starting in June 2016 and candidate Trump's August 2016 intelligence briefing, warning him that Russia was seeking to interfere with the election.
Okay, two things. Where does that show evidence that there were crimes charged relating to that?
I'm not saying this specific sentence says that, just to be clear, right?
Okay,
I'm not saying this,
but
that sounds like it. That sounds like
nothing to help you. Secondly, isn't that the exact thing we just went through with Wasserman Schultz and Podesta? That we said no one reported that they paid for this. No one.
Wait, are you talking about the Steele dossier?
Funding of the dossier, yes.
But again, it was it was just it was marked as something different, right? It wasn't marked as opposition. It was marked as legal services.
That's not true. They did not say.
That is true.
Okay, so I want you to show me that they marked it as legal services and said we paid them for campaign research, but we just checked the wrong box. Show me proof of that.
They marked that so just the chart the whatever they paid the fine for, that was regarding misreporting, right? What were they misreporting?
They were misreporting that instead of admitting that they paid campaign finance research, they said that they paid for legal services.
Legal services. Yeah. So again, it's a category.
So then they never admitted that they paid for campaign finance services.
But they admitted that they paid these specific organizations for legal services, right?
Right. And they had been paying those organizations for legal services in the past. What does that have to do with the fact if I pay a law firm to help me through a divorce, and I also pay them to help me with a campaign, and I just write it down as legal services, could I say, oh, well, never mind that I was honest that they helped me with the campaign? No.
So I think the big symmetry breaker here is that, again, the report contains no evidence that Trump or any Trump campaign official reported their contacts with Russia. So it's not even just that they misreported anything about them. They just didn't report them at all.
That is irrelevant to the question.
That seems very relevant.
So just to be clear, if Trump's team had said, hey, we once played bingo with Klemenich, you'd say, oh, that's fair. They reported that they met.
Do you think they were talking about bingo?
No, just like I don't think Hillary's team, when they said legal services to a law firm, were admitting that it was campaign finance, campaign research.
Wait.
Your argument seems to be here. It doesn't matter if Hillary's team failed to disclose that they paid for the dossier, because they did disclose that they paid for something. And that's all that matters. As long as they said they paid for something, that's fair enough. But if Trump's team had said, hey, we met with Russians for something.
I'm not saying it's fair. Like, I'm not saying that they did everything perfectly. Obviously they didn't. Otherwise they wouldn't have to pay the fine. But what I am saying is that it's to make the case that it's collusion. I feel like we need something stronger than just they misrepresented the.
Show me. Okay. So
and we would need intent. I think also that they actually actively tried. Instead of just somebody somewhere wrote legal services instead of opposition research, whatever, like that. Yeah, I feel like we need some stronger evidence.
Show me any evidence, or show me any definition of the word collusion that says that to be secret, it has to be illegal. Go ahead.
Well, almost every definition I pulled up was unlawful or secret.
Okay, so was the funding secret?
It was reported. Trump's was not reported.
Trump's was not reported. Show me the evidence that it was reported. Show me the evidence from Hillary's team that it was reported
as legal services.
Okay, does that? So it said legal services to pay for this dossier.
I don't know if that's not what they got in trouble for. They got in trouble for not charging it as opposition research, right? Show me,
your argument is not disclosing is enough. Show me the evidence that they disclosed to anyone that they paid for this dossier. Show me the evidence. You have evidence that they said we paid Fusion GPS. You have evidence that they said we paid Fusion GPS for something. Show me the evidence that they said we paid them for the Steele dossier. Go ahead.
I'm saying that they wrote it as legal services, and those legal services included the opposition research, right? And you're saying there's no.
Show me that. Show me.
I'm willing to suspect that it does exist, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I assume it does.
Proof.
I don't know.
Show me any proof.
Okay. Okay. You say show me. You gotta give me a second to actually search, right? Like, I don't have it. Obviously, I don't have it.
As you're looking, right? You then went to but Trump's team was convicted of crimes with colluding to affect the election, right? Now you default back to, but they didn't admit that they talked to Russians. They didn't admit that they talked to WikiLeaks. But
yes, the report. Okay, they definitely didn't. There was no report.
What's that have to do with your claim that there were people charged with colluding with Russians to affect the 2016 election?
Well, I'm not saying the charge was collusion. I never said the charges were collusion.
I didn't say. Let me repeat what I said.
You just said I said that. So.
Okay. Show me any evidence that using any word, so we'll take out the word collusion, that there was a charge that was filed that said you in an illegal manner tried to get information from Russians in 2016 and that's illegal. There's evidence that they were charged with obstruction. There's evidence that they were charged with lying, but there's no evidence that they were charged, nor would it be a crime to try to get dirt on your opponents from Russians. None.
But you keep adding in the specifically trying to get dirt on your. I never focused on that part. I never focused on that part.
Okay, trying to get.
It's legal to try to get dirt on your opposition. It is legal to try to get dirt on your opposition, right? We agree.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me rephrase. This is so fucking insane. But let me rephrase. Yeah. Show me the evidence that it is a crime, that there was any crime whatsoever regarding Trump's team getting information from Russia to help in the 2016 election.
Special counsel declined to exonerate Trump. Okay, what was Trump not exonerated for? Just
obstruction.
I assume you know. From the Mueller report, what was the things that he wasn't exonerated for? Obstruction regarding what?
It was all sorts of. He didn't cooperate. He didn't tell us the truth. Irrelevant.
Including sought to impede investigations, including through one-on-one meetings with senior officials. Stemming. Why is that irrelevant?
Nothing. It's nothing to do with a crime stemming from trying to get information from Russia to affect the 2016 election.
Well, it sounds like that's the thing. He's obstructing investigation into that thing, right?
And yet that thing wasn't a crime. In fact, that's why the Mueller report was in two parts. There was part one, which had to do with the Russia collusion shit, and there was no connection whatsoever that Trump committed any crimes regarding that. And then part two was, but did he obstruct our investigation into that?
Wait, I'm sorry. You said there was no crimes committed by Trump doing that? Because it sounds like there was. He wasn't exonerated from any of those. So he was.
Show me the crimes. Then show me the crimes that Trump was not exonerated from. It's some sort of crime that was alleged that Trump was charged with regarding trying to get information from Russians in the 2016 election.
Okay, so I assume that would be related to the 5 episodes of obstructive conduct, right?
No.
He's obstructing things related to that, right? Don't. Come on. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn. Walk me through it.
I'm accused of working with the mafia, right? You say, Rob, I think you're working with the mafia. You're in charge of law enforcement. You start looking into it, right? I fucking destroy evidence. That's obstruction, right? That evidence never shows that I work with the mafia. Can I still be charged with obstruction?
Potentially.
Right, I can. Because the act of lying to investigators, the act of hiding evidence from the investigators itself could be a crime, regardless if the underlying crime that was allegedly alleged happened or not. The underlying crime, which Democrats were talking about, was Russian collusion. Things centered around the idea of Russia collusion, which they were talking about getting disinformation on Hillary. You throw a fucking conniption. No, it's not just disinformation. It could also be positive information about people not Hillary. Any information that was being attempted to be gotten from Russia. That's what they meant about Russia collusion, but it had to be illegally. A crime.
Any illegal.
Yes. Okay, so show me the crime.
So there would be, it wasn't crimes that Trump himself was charged with.
His team.
Yeah, his team. Okay. So we want to look at the indictments from Mueller's team, right?
Yep.
So what? I mean, I assume you can educate me on some of these things. Then, so what specific thing? Who was indicted? Who was indicted?
If I educate you, you'll say, I need to look that up. I need to. So just look it
up. I'm looking it up right now. We can do it together. Let's learn together right now. Like, why not?
I don't need to learn together. I got like 15 more minutes in a minute. You tell me. You're the one making the declarative statement. You have no fucking clue. You're now admitting none.
I know that a lot of people. I know that there were at least seven guilty pleas, I think. And I don't know what exactly those 7 guilty pleas were, but I want to look into them, and I suspect, based on everything else I know about this, it seems like they did have to do with because the scope of the investigation was about Russian election interference and links between Trump and Russian officials, and alleged conspiracy between Trump campaign and Russian agents. I'm reading from the Wikipedia page right now. And so all of that sounds like it would relate to if that's the scope of the investigation, and there are indictments related to that, including like the
so you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked if there wasn't. You'd be shocked if they didn't indict anyone for colluding with Russia in any way, trying to get information with Russia.
They didn't indict anyone related to anything regarding election interference, links between Trump's associates and campaign and Russian officials, conspiracy between Trump campaign and Russian agents, potential obstruction of justice. Financial investigations.
Why are you adding all that shit? Potential obstruction of
justice. This is the scope. I'm reading it. I'm reading the scope. I'm telling you that this is all related to Russian interference.
That's such short. Now, notice how you moved the goalpost right there, right? The original argument was, I know they did something illegal as far as colluding with Russia, which we define as illegally trying to get information from Russia to affect the 2016 election. I'm like, they did.
Okay, so I'll isolate to the first few here. So Russian election interference, links between Trump associates and Russian officials, alleged conspiracy between Trump campaigns and Russian agents.
Why would that
You're saying that those 3 have nothing to do with the actual guilty pleas.
I didn't hear number 3. Why would number 2?
I'll repeat them. Number 1 is Russian.
I asked you. I heard number 2. Why would having connections with Russian officials matter?
If they're done illegally.
Why? What's that have to do with getting information?
You're supposed to report that shit. It's the whole point.
No. Again, this is what. Could you meet with a Russian official and do something illegal that had nothing to do with the 2016 election?
Potentially, but I think it's very obvious, like this was regarding the 2016 election.
That's not true at all. In fact, the charges stemming from Paul Manafort from 2012 when he was working with Klemenich involving Yanukovych. That's where many of those charges stem from.
Many of them. So what about the ones that were related to the 2016 election?
Read them. That's what we're doing. Now, I just want to be clear, just
so
my audience knows. Just so my audience knows. Once he's unable to do this, he's just going to move the goalpost to something else, just so everyone knows. He's going to say, well, obstruction would still meet that or something like that. Watch.
So one of the things he was found guilty of was conspiracy to defraud. Regarding what, though? I mean, do you know what he was found guilty of regarding?
I think it has to do with payments or bank accounts or something like that.
Bank accounts about, like, and you're saying that was all about 2013 stuff. None of it had to do with 2016.
I think it was mostly, I think that there were connections, that there were still bank accounts and shit like that from 2017. What's that matter? If those bank accounts aren't associated with him trying to illegally get information from Russia, what does it fucking matter?
Yeah, I'm asking AI now because I've been trying to read like off Wikipedia and shit. I'm gonna use my own ChatGPT now. Did anything actually substantiate collusion? That's a good question.
No. Wait a minute. Let me tell you why not. Because that's not going to say that criminal nature is necessary for collusion. So it's going to say things like, well, Manafort talked to Klemenich. That's collusion.
Well, it's saying he was not convicted of collusion, which I agree with. He was not convicted of collusion. So we're starting off on a good foot, right? We agree that he was never charged or convicted of collusion.
Pause. I'll bet that the next line somewhere in there it's going to say, but there is evidence that he talked with Russians or he talked with Klimenik or something like that. It's going to say that, but it's not going to say that he was charged with a crime because of that. It's going to use the term collusion like I'm using it, saying that a crime's not necessary. You're the one who has this proprietary definition of the term collusion that no one else has.
Not proprietary. It's secret or illegal. That's I Googled collusion. That's where I got it.
So secret doesn't apply, just illegal.
Secret or illegal. Both. So both these. Trump's for both. Trump's for both.
Oh, show me. So you're making the claim that was illegal. Show me.
Wait, which? Yeah. Okay, hang on. Okay, so here's the key details involving Manafort. Manafort shared internal Trump campaign polling data and strategy with this Constantine. This is what you're talking about?
Yep.
So he shared internal Trump campaign polling data in 2013 with him?
No. Why would that make sense?
So, yeah, it wouldn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. Right. So he's contact with him was not. Is it a crime?
Is it a crime to share polling data with someone? Is sharing polling data the same as getting information illegally from them to affect the election?
I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying that's part of this case, right? So I don't know why that's obviously it's I'm saying that is likely relevant to the charges, but like we agree then at least that Manafort did share internal Trump campaign polling data and strategy with Kilmer. You're saying it's not. You're saying it's fine. You're saying it's okay to do. Okay.
You're looking for one thing: evidence that someone was charged with a crime regarding trying to get information to affect the 2016 election. That's what you're looking for. Sending polling data wouldn't meet that criteria, and it wasn't a crime, so it fails that criteria for two reasons.
So wait a minute. Can you tell me again what I'm trying to prove, according to you?
Why would I have to tell you that if it's your argument?
Well, because I feel like a lot of times you describe what I'm about to do, and it doesn't match exactly what I said, but it's like close to it.
Your argument is, in order to say that Trump's team colluded in a way that was different than Hillary's team, which I'm saying is colluding is working behind the scenes to get dirt on your opponent. That's what I'm saying. You're saying, no, that's not what you're saying. You're saying that it has to be illegal or secretive, and you don't qualify as secretive. I don't even fucking know what you're saying on the secret part, but on the legal, you're saying, but there were charges that showed that Trump's team committed illegal acts trying to get information to swing the 2016 election. That's what you're going to prove. That's what you said existed. You keep saying it was criminal. What they did was criminal, trying to work with Russia to affect the 2016 election. That's why it's bad. That's what you keep saying.
Okay. So he lied about his, I see. So he lied about his communications with Killick. That was what was illegal about it. It's not that he had those connections. He lied about them. So he did it secretly, basically. He lied about them.
So what does that have to do with the claim that you're trying to prove that people were charged with crimes with illegally working with Russians to affect the 2016 election?
Why did he lie about those meetings with Killick?
What does it matter why it's irrelevant to the question?
What were the meetings about?
What does it mean? It was about giving polling data.
Okay, that's it?
Show me the crime.
That was the first one I read, right?
Show me the crime.
Well, the crimes that he got, the things that he was convicted of regarding this seem to be the failure to register as a foreign agent. So he's convicted with his relation to Ukraine lobbying work. You're saying that was his 2013 stuff. And then also lying to the FBI and breaching a plea deal. And this is regarding misleading investigators, especially regarding his contacts with Killick. So what else? Let's see. I'm learning a lot here, actually.
All of this is irrelevant to the actual point. I'm just going through.
Well, it's relevant to what you're asserting. Yeah.
No, it's irrelevant to.
But it's super interesting that we're learning more about. Like I like that we're learning about.
I knew all of this. I'm not learning anything, right? It's what's irrelevant. What's irrelevant about it is as follows. I'm literally jumping through all of your loops, all of them, which is not what people were talking about when they talked about Russia collusion, but you're feigning ignorance or you don't know. And so I'm jumping through all of your hoops and saying, even if we accepted your interpretation, which is bullshit, but even if we accepted it based on your extrapolation, you're still wrong.